a Thursday afternoon. This is the Alex Strouf Show right here, presented by Cream City Central alongside, he's back, my producer Kyle Hoffenbecker. Hi, Kyle. How are you, my friend?
It's a Thursday. Can't complain. Friday Eve, as some would say. Friday Eve.
It's Friday for us, essentially, right? This is our last show of the week, so we're going to end the week with a bang, as we always do. Big show ahead once again here on a Thursday. Going to be hard to top Tuesdays because that was a good show. Good. But we've got the lineup to do it today. So we're going to lead off, obviously, a lot of NFL talk to be had here in a little bit. I'm going to talk about the NFL preseason and what I think of the preseason, which I don't think very many people agree with me yet, and I'll make you agree with me once we get to that here in about 5 or so minutes. At about 3:30, we'll be joined by Matt Ramage, who is the host of the Ramblin' Matt Ramage podcast. He is the Green Bay Packers super fan, and he did a little Facebook Live karaoke last night. There's no evidence of it anywhere, so I'm excited to chat with him of that because I think he may have deleted that a little licked up. So we'll talk to him about that here in about, 25 minutes or so. Before the top of the hour, we're jumping into the best segment on the show, Fight Night with Alex Strouf. We'll be joined by Joey Bonadonna this week to discuss the best 1-2 punch heading into the NBA playoffs. I made my choice with Kawhi Leonard and Paul George and the Clippers. He went with the other LA team, LeBron and AD. So we'll do that just before the 4 o'clock hour. And then inside the 4 o'clock hour, we've got a bunch of headlines to cover. We had the first round of the MLB Draft last night, so we'll dive into that real briefly around 4:15. And then at 4:30, we will be joined by a good friend of mine. He's a writer at BadgersWire.com. He is the host of Locked On Badgers podcast. His name is Asher Low, and he will join us from the great city of Los Angeles in the 4 o'clock hour. Now, Kyle, welcome back, my friend. You were gone Tuesday. You're back. You've turned 20 since the last time we spoke. It's good to have you back, man. It's good to have you back.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a new man. I mean, new decade of life.
I bet you do, yeah.
Actually, I don't feel any different than I did this time last week. So,
oh, good.
Some say another year wiser. I just say another year older. Okay. Halfway to 40.
Halfway to 40. You're halfway to the prime of your life. That's awesome. Hey, so Kyle, before we get to our first break here, man, I felt like the saying, you learn something new every day, has really come into my life the last few days, right? So after we hopped off the air, I hopped off the air on Tuesday, I saw a tweet that said, Mark Murphy has to retire in 2025, the president of the Packers, because the oldest you can be is 70 years old. And he's 64 right now, or almost 65. I didn't know you had to retire at age 70. That was completely new to me.
I believe it's like for leadership only. I might be wrong on that.
Oh, you're telling me Rodgers can play past 70 then? Is that what that means? Okay.
But I believe it refers to like the board of directors and obviously the president, CEO, Mark Murphy in this case. You learn something new every day.
You absolutely do. Yes. So that was new for me. I think that, like I said, I think that was Tuesday or Wednesday that I saw that. Earlier today, I made a tweet and I was just being, the sarcastic a-hole I am, right? And I said something along the lines of, I'm doing the show from home today, as you see. I'm not in the WWSB studios, as Chad Shirley said in that introduction. I'm actually up the road. I'm in my college bedroom, doing a little stay-at-home version of the Alex Strouf Show today. But I made a tweet and I said, I'm going to wear a nice button-up shirt and sweatpants. And I got like 4 tweets, Kyle, that said, why are you wearing pants? Are the pants necessary? And A, no, they're not, because I'm on camera and you can see, I don't know, mid-chest up. But it blows my freaking gourd, Kyle, how many people must not wear pants when they're working from home. Like, I feel like that should have been our Twitter poll today instead of what it is. And we'll get to today's Twitter poll here after the break. But it's unbelievable to me, Kyle, how many people don't wear pants. I read
an article, and this came out a little bit at the beginning of the pandemic, that Walmart saw a dramatic increase in the amount of how many people bought shirts, but a decrease in the amount of pants bought because of this during this time frame. Because, I mean, I'm wearing shorts right now.
Yeah, so am I.
You can't see I'm wearing shorts.
Right.
So
Yeah, I was going to ask. I was going to make sure you had pants on, but like I've been wearing, and I will openly say this, I've been wearing these shorts because they are the comfiest pair I own for, I think, 4 days straight. And I have no shame in that because I'm not dealing with anybody. I'm sitting at my desk in my room, and I don't give a damn what you think about my shorts.
Yeah,
So
I mean, yeah.
that's my attitude about it, at least. The last thing before we get to our break is you asked me about the stock market like 5 minutes ago. We go live every day, folks, to give you a little rundown of what we do. We go live somewhere between the 57 and 59 mark of the 2 o'clock hour because we have that 3-minute layover so people can get in and start chiming in on the comments and they know we're live. Kyle at about 2:56 said to me, "Hey man, you look at the stock market today," which I've never, and that's fine. You can look at the stock market, Kyle. I invest a lot of my money, well, not a lot of it, but some of my money into stocks and other things that are
Bitcoin.
very high risk. Yes, I do have like $50 invested in Bitcoin right now, but that's beside the point. I just thought it was absolutely out there that was the question you asked me 5 minutes before we start a sports show. But nonetheless,
I mean,
you learn something new every day.
I mean, I want to just, state my reasoning as to why. I mean, I've been following it pretty. I'm not an economics major or I don't know much about money. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yes.
I should, but I don't.
Hey man, I got called broke by one of our guests on Tuesday. It could be worse. Go on.
And I've been very intrigued. I know we want to get to sports, and I know that our listeners don't want to listen to me talk about the freaking stock market, which is okay. I don't blame them. I've been so interested in how the stock market has changed so dramatically over these last 10
3
weeks.
months.
Yeah, 3 weeks, 10 months. And I mean,
3 weeks, 10 months.
Yeah.
3 weeks, 10 months is what you just. 3 months, 10 weeks. No. Okay.
10 weeks. 10 weeks.
Enough of Kyle's financial show. We've got to talk about NFL preseason, and we'll get to our Twitter poll on the other side. This is the Alex Strouf Show here, presented by Cream City Central. We welcome you back inside the Alex Strouf Show here, presented by Cream City Central. My name, of course, is Alex Strouf. You can find me on Twitter at Alex_Strouf. And we've got some things to dive into. But first, I just want to make a note of this. Will Ryan was just officially introduced as the 8th, I believe, head coach of the UW Green Bay men's basketball program. And he is currently at the podium. So we will not have audio, from Will Ryan today. But we will hopefully sometime next week have a little bit more. I know we've been following this story since, early last week with the whole Link Darner firing and now the Will Ryan hiring. So we'll keep an eye on that next week as he just stepped to the podium at Titletown Tech in Green Bay. Our good friend Scott Vincey is there as well. So there's that. But let's get to today's Twitter question.
It's the Strouf Show Twitter question.
Yes! Yes! Yes!
Chime in on today's topic at Cream City Central on Twitter.
So looking at today's Alex Strouf Show Twitter poll question of the day, how many games should the NFL preseason be? And I'm talking permanently. I'm not talking this year. I'm not talking next year. I am talking permanently. And with 85 votes in already, it is heavy favorite. Your options were 4, 2, or 0. 77.6% of you say 2, where 12.9% of you, say 0. I like you guys. And for 4 games, 9.4% of you went that way. So that poll is up until the end of the show at Cream City Central on Twitter. Now, I'm going to get into what I know is an unpopular opinion. And that's fine by me because I don't have a platform if I don't speak on things you guys don't agree with me about. And that's fine. You're allowed to disagree with me. But when you step in and you sit here and listen to me, I ask that you just listen with open ears. That's all I ask of you. Now, according to NFL Network's Tom Pelissero, multiple team executives have been informed that the NFL could play just 2 preseason games instead of the scheduled 4 for this year. Now, in next year's CBA, starting in 2021, it's looking like this will become permanent. It's between 2 and 3, maybe that 1, but that's more unlikely. It's looking like it'll probably be 2 games in the NFL preseason rather than the 4 we've been used to for the last decade or two. Now, look, I've always been open about this because it's an opinion of mine that I'm strongly stuck on. And I'll listen to you if you want to jump on your platform and talk about it. But we're in mine. So we're going to talk about my thoughts on the NFL preseason. And my thoughts on the NFL preseason is this. Do good things come away from NFL preseason games? Sure. You find a diamond in the rough here and there. Last year, Kyle and I were talking about this before the show. Allen Lazard caught a touchdown pass in the first game of the preseason from Tim Boyle. Allen Lazard, now kind of a breakout star for the Packers. So sure, you find those diamonds in the rough. Chandon Sullivan. There's a couple other names in past years where, yeah, they have a good, Ty Summers, I think, is another example, where, yeah, they have a good preseason showing, and they benefit from it. They make the roster. But generally, I imagine, just from training camp, just from practices, just from being around the facility, Allen Lazard probably had a job without catching that touchdown pass in game 1. Ty Summers was a draft pick. He was going to make the roster. So these guys really didn't solidify their spots on the roster because they probably already had it. And I know Allen Lazard's a weird one because he was undrafted, he was cut from another team, and then he came to Green Bay looking for that opportunity. He got it and ultimately shined in that first preseason game back on August 8th of last year. But overall, the NFL preseason does a few things for people. Your 5th string cornerback that got an interception in the 4th quarter of your 4th preseason game maybe, just maybe, solidified his spot on the practice squad. Or maybe Manny Wilkins, gets another practice squad opportunity from a team that's not the Packers, because he had decent showings in the preseason last year. But outside of that, what are teams actually gaining outside of the physical endeavor of playing football by playing 4 preseason games? Hell, what are they gaining by doing that 2 times a year? If you're playing 2 preseason games, what are you gaining? Because I'll tell you this much. It's a capitalization by the National Football League. Obviously, it's cheaper tickets. Families can't afford to go to regular season games, so they take their kids to a preseason game. Okay, great. I get that. That's awesome. But generally, what is the consensus for fans going to a preseason game? It's on a Thursday. They took Friday off. Have you ever been to a preseason game? Everybody there is freaking slammed. I mean, it is drunker at Lambeau Field in the preseason than it is in the regular season. I was looking into it. Statistically, there was more ejections in the preseason than there is in the playoffs at Lambeau Field. It's because it's August, people want Friday off, and they take advantage of the Miller Lite tent at Lambeau Field, sure. But the product on the field is never very good either. I've never, ever gone out of my way to watch a non-Packers preseason game unless maybe it's the Hall of Fame game, just for the cool ceremonial aspect of that. But you know who doesn't play in preseason very much? Aaron Rodgers. Because he's too valuable to his team. And when you move the format from a 4-game preseason to a 2-game preseason, you're not going to see Aaron Rodgers for a drive. You're not going to see him for 2 drives. You're not going to see Aaron Rodgers for a snap in the preseason. You're not going to see Devontae Adams for a snap in the preseason. You're not going to see Zadarius Smith for a snap in the preseason. You're not going to see Patrick Mahomes at all in the preseason. Hell, I bet even Daniel Jones, the quarterback of the New York Giants, won't even play in the preseason. Because these pieces are too valuable. And I get that. You have an expanded roster, and you need to see them in real-life action. But the preseason storyline for Green Bay is going to be, let's see Jordan Love in action. we're seeing Jordan Love in action against guys that won't have a job in 2 weeks, for the most part, right? Maybe some of these second stringers, okay, yeah, they'll get some reps for their team. But Jordan Love probably won't play that much either. The preseason is pointless to me. The only point of it is so the NFL can capitalize on a couple more dollars, and the stadiums can capitalize on beer sales. That's all it is. You learn a lot more by going, and I'm saying this from a fan's perspective, you learn a lot more about a team going to a public training camp session for 2.5 hours than you do watching a preseason game. I'm serious. I know they're in live action. I know they're running real plays against a different team, real opponent. It's live speed 100%. I get that. The risk does not outweigh the benefit, in my opinion. The NFL preseason at 2 games is more understandable than 4, but how necessary is it? People don't get excited about the NBA preseason. The Bucks go around communities. They don't even play in Milwaukee most of the preseason, or at least they used to not play most of their games in Milwaukee, because I remember they would come to the Rest Center in Green Bay and play a preseason game. Nobody gets excited about the NBA preseason. People get excited about storylines in the NFL preseason, but you shouldn't. The only preseason, if you will, that people get excited about is spring training in baseball. And you know why people get excited about spring training in baseball? It's because they live in Wisconsin and it's 30 degrees outside. It gives them an excuse to go to Arizona where it's 85 degrees outside and drink a martini while watching Christian Yelich look good. You know what I mean? You get to see some of those names that might make a baseball roster. They get excited because it's an escape. We're in the midst of the NBA, and a lot of people aren't huge NBA fans if you're not in Southeast Wisconsin. The NFL preseason is the worst, in my opinion, of all the preseasons. I'll even include hockey in that. I don't know how beneficial preseason is to a team's long-term success. Because realistically, you're not actually throwing, most of the groups that you're throwing out there are not a group you'll ever see on the field in the regular season. I look at it like this. I mentioned some names. Aaron Rodgers won't play a down, I guarantee it. Devontae Adams probably won't play a down. Zadarius Smith probably won't play a down. David Bakhtiari probably won't play a down. Aaron Jones probably won't play a down. The list goes on and on. I mean, you take your top 20 most valuable pieces. If I was in charge, they wouldn't see them. I wouldn't even make them come. You can go sit in a box. I mean, seriously. I don't know how beneficial it really is to your long-term success, because your first group, if it's out there at all, isn't out there in its entirety. Ever. Maybe for the first drive of the preseason, at the very most. You have the 11 starters you'll have week 1 against Minnesota here in week 1 of the preseason. It's mind-boggling to me how into preseason some people are. I get the cheap tickets. I get the beer drinking. I like to drink beer too. But really, you learn nothing from the preseason. The Packers preseason schedule currently looks like this. They would host the Cardinals and then the Browns on the 15th and 22nd of August, respectively. And then they would travel to New York to play the Giants, or actually New Jersey, and then would travel to Kansas City to play the defending Super Bowl champions on September 3rd. So likely what will happen here is either they will keep weeks 2 and 3 or 3 and 4 would be how I imagine it. And they might need to do some readjusting so each team gets a home game. But when they make this 2-game move, you know who's going to be playing is Vernon Scott, the 7th round pick. You might not see Jordan Love a whole lot. You're probably not going to see A.J. Dillon a whole lot. These guys that are going to play big roles in the Packers, both offense and defensive schemes, what use do we have for you risking an injury? Yeah, go entertain the fans for a drive, A-Rod, but do not get hit, is pretty much the direction I imagine LaFleur goes. I mean, seriously, how many passes and I'll look this up as quick as I can. Did Aaron Rodgers throw in the preseason last year? I'm curious of that. How many times did Aaron Rodgers actually drop back and throw a pass in the preseason last year? Did he even play last year? I don't think he did. And he shouldn't. He absolutely shouldn't. Absolutely should not. The preseason is, if it was entirely eliminated and kept to just strictly training camp, and maybe you do a week of practice with another team like the Packers did with the Texans last year. And I know that they're not allowing that this year, obviously, since we're in the middle of a pandemic. But is that going to become more normalized? Maybe bring in, what's the nearest team that's not in the division? Indianapolis, Cincinnati, bring them in for a week and let them practice, get some real reps, go full speed for a little while. Okay, right. Still do family night. Go entertain the fans in the stadium that fits 70,000 people. Because it's always sold out. Family night is for Green Bay. And maybe if we eliminated the preseason, that'd become an even hotter commodity. And there is your ticket money from the eliminated, what should be 2 games. Currently is 4, so 2 home games. The preseason just is not necessary to me. It really is not. I voted 0 for our Twitter poll, and I'll take another look at that quick. Our Strouf Show Twitter poll today. How many games should the NFL preseason be? And still heavily leading is 2 at 78.2%. And my people who voted 0 at 12.6%. While 4 preseason games, people still believe that, just under 10% of you voted that direction. As I mentioned, we will leave that poll open for the rest of the show, and we will wrap up the show with the final results. But we got to take a timeout, and on the other side, we've got the hilarious Matt Ramage joining us. Oh boy, this is going to get interesting. I know it is. This is the Alex Strouf Show on Cream City Central. Oh man, it's about to get fun up in here on the Alex Strouf Show. We go to the phone lines now, where we find one of the most hilarious people on the internet, and that might be a biased opinion, but it's fine. He is the host of the Ramblin' Matt Ramage podcast, and he's a Green Bay Packers super fan. There's no better way to explain him. It's the great Matt Ramage. Matt, how are you, my friend?
Hey, I'm good, man. Thanks for having me on.
Of course, anytime, Matt. So it's been a weird few months. What's been up with you? Everything safe? Everything good on your end?
Yeah, everything's been good. I've still been working. I was fortunate not to lose my job, and this week I'm on vacation, so I'm just at home drinking beers.
Yeah, I've been doing the same thing for the last, I turned 21 in December for 7 months. That's all I've been doing. Let's pretend I didn't underage drink ever. But so Matt, last night, I got to bring it up because I did pop in for a minute. Although it's been erased from the face of the internet, you were letting the pipes go last night, man. You were drinking some Coors Light and singing some tunes. You were feeling good last night.
Yeah, last night was a little wild. I do that occasionally. I have a few too many beers, and I just say, hey, let's go live on Facebook and sing some songs.
What's your favorite karaoke song?
I don't know. Really anything. Like, especially if I'm drinking, like 80s stuff is, like, really the go-to. Because, like, pretty much when I'm in my basement drinking, my wife has control. So whatever she plays, I'm just gonna sing it.
I love it. See, that's the key to a happy marriage, right there, Matt. You just taught all of our young viewers something. Just do whatever your wife does. All right, so
exactly,
Matt. Let's jump into some football talk. So you pissed off some Vikings fans this week on Facebook. You pretty much said their fans are trash and that they don't know that they hang divisional banners, which Green Bay obviously does not do because that should be a given. So. Your thoughts on Vikings fans right now as we stand is what?
Well, Vikings fans come at me like I've been taking it easy with like the trash talk, but it's kind of like what I do. I like trash talking, and it's like it's not personal. I just like going at them. But like lately, they just been getting chatty, so I just made a post and said, what it is. Like they've never won anything, but they're like the most chattiest fan base. Because I know a lot of Bear fans. I interact with on the internet, and like we're cool. We go back and forth. It's all fun. But Viking fans, all they talk about is that they hurt Aaron Rodgers. They just drive me nuts.
And obviously, we're in the midst of the Dalvin Cook holdout now, so you've got a little bit more ammo to throw at him.
Oh yeah, because I said to someone, I was like, "You guys overpaid for a slightly above average quarterback, but you don't want to pay one of the best running backs in the league. And I get it because running back, throwing money at running backs this day and age isn't the wisest thing, but it's definitely fun to watch them just suffering.
So you bring up giving running backs money, and obviously this is a very interesting year for the Packers. 2020 will be. Obviously, they drafted A.J. Dillon. They're going into the last year of both Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams on their contract, at least. How do you think this Dalvin Cook situation will impact the Aaron Jones situation? Will it at all?
I'm not sure. Like, if they pay, I don't know. I don't see the Packers. Like, I love Aaron Jones and I love Jamal Williams. Like, I think that they're both like really good, obviously running backs, but just off the field, like you hear stories of Aaron Jones helping people, a pregnant woman carry luggage to the airport. Jamal Williams is a good guy, and so as a fan, I get like, I'm not biased. I'm like, I like these dudes, I want them to stay. But the Packers throwing big money, like the highest paid running back in the league money. I just don't see it happening. But who knows? Like what the Vikings are gonna do? I'm not sure how much they can pay him. I don't know the salary cap. I'm not a big numbers guy.
I'm not
but
either.
They can't have a lot. They don't have much, I don't think.
Yeah, I imagine it right with the contract they have on Kirk Cousins right now. It's going to be hard for Dalvin Cook. But hey, the Packers play the Vikings in Week 1, so if he wants to hold out past then, I don't think either you or I will complain. We're joined by Matt Ramage here on the Alex Strouf Show, at Matt Ramage on Twitter. I bring up the running back room, Matt, because it's very intriguing to me going into 2020. All three of those guys are still under contract. How do you think A.J. Dillon's impact will look in 2020?
I think that's the thing with running backs. It seems like a lot of running backs can just come in and be a playmaker, be a difference on a team. And with having all three of those guys, I guess A.J. Dillon just seems like I don't know a lot about him because I'm not a big college guy, but what I've watched is he just runs people over, and he's beefed up. I just saw he posted a picture. He just looks ripped. So you add what Aaron Jones and Jamal Williams are doing, now you add in just a bruiser like that. I think that the running game for the Packers could be huge.
You mentioned he looked ripped. Who would win in a boxing match? You or A.J. Dillon? I think you got him.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I could beat him. Maybe drinking. I don't know. Big drinker, but
could you outdrink David Bakhtiari?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think I could.
People ask me about the chugging thing. I can't drink like that. Like, I can drink long term. I can shotgun. I can do everything, but I can't just open my throat and just shove beer down like he does. Like, that's just a gift some people have, and I don't have that.
Matt Ramage, you are a hilarious human being. So tell me about the podcast and the YouTube channel, because you've got content all over the place, man. You are a creative dude. Tell me about what you're doing, and you have just blown up in the past few years.
Well, the podcast right now, I'm just bringing it back. I stopped for a little bit after the season. I just took a little break. I got bored with it. Plus, with no sports, it's tough. But yeah, basically, when I first started making videos, I used to be on Vine back in the day. I'd make little jokes about my eyes and do that. And then that got shut down. And then I always had a meme page on Instagram. I was Packers memes. And then that got boring. So I was like, I should just start talking about the Packers and making jokes and kind of mixing with the Packers. I love the Packers. And then I lost a bunch of followers at first because who's this guy? I don't want to see this guy. And then it started to grow again, and then people started noticing me, and players started noticing me. And then I linked up with Clayton Dick, and a lot of the players just started interacting with me. And then when I started my podcast, because everyone's like, "Yeah, you should do a podcast." So I started the whole podcast, and then players were coming on, like Tom Crabtree. He came on multiple times. He's really cool, and it's just been fun. My podcast really isn't breaking down numbers and talking analytics, because that's not really what I'm good at. It's just kind of clowning around talking about the Packers. And what I want to do going forward is bringing on the average Packer fan who doesn't really have a voice, and then they can come on and just say whatever they want and just do some non-Packer stuff. Just have fun and goof off and just make it fun.
Matt, if you offer me that, I might have to come drink 18 Coors Lights with you and talk into a microphone, because that sounds like a really, really good time. But So yeah, you brought up your relationship with some of these players, because I know you and Clinton Dix are buddies. You went bowling with Preston Smith. These guys are just down to earth, normal dudes.
Yeah, like every player that I've talked to, like Preston Smith, I went bowling with him. You would never know, besides his size, that he's a football player. Like he's just a normal dude. Same thing with Haha. When he came to my house for a podcast, he was like, I told him he didn't have to take his shoes off. He's like, no, I will, you know. And he was just so respectful. He's just like anybody else. Like I'm sure that there are players that are not so nice, but every player that I've talked to, like even through a DM on Instagram, I've talked to quite a few. They're all just the nicest dude. Like Preston Smith is one of the coolest people I've ever met. Like we talk once in a while, and obviously we went bowling. And like I say, you would never know. They're just regular players. They just have really awesome jobs.
They do have really awesome jobs indeed. Matt Ramage joining us here on the Alex Strouf Show at Matt Ramage on Twitter, and you can find him on Facebook. He's got like 70,000 likes on Facebook. You can't miss him. I got to ask you about Haha, because like I said, I know you guys are friends. You guys are buddies. Was it hard to not hate him because he was a Bear last year?
Yeah, that was like the most bizarre thing that's happened, because like I defend Haha a lot. Like people bash him on Twitter or whatever. Like, you know, Packer fans, any fan base, when a player leaves, they kind of give him stuff. And it's hard for me to not say something, because like he's been so good with me. I mean, a lot of even like my followers is because of him. Like he would send me videos, and we'd make the little cleat phone videos. That helped me a lot, and he was always just so cool to me. So I take offense when someone like talks too much smack. And yeah, but when he went to the Bears, my big thing was like the Bears still suck. I sold shirts, hats, I did little dance, Bears still suck, singing the song. And when he went there, I was just like so confused, like, because I felt bad. I actually messaged him when he first went there. I said, hey, if you got to unfollow me or mute me or whatever, feel free. But I'm going to be singing the Bears still suck. So if you don't want to see it, just unfollow. But he didn't. They understand. It's a business. I still rooted for him. Like, people were mad because I would say stuff. Like, I'll always root for Ha. And, like, they're people. I mean, they're players, but they're people at the end of the day. And if you're cool with me, I'm not going to, just because you switch teams, like just start hating you.
And you mentioned, we'll stick with Haha, obviously, in Dallas now with Mike McCarthy. You mentioned that Cowboys fans are the worst. I think you're pretty open about that, or they're close to the worst in the league.
Yeah.
You got Mike there. You got Haha there. I'm going to make this a two-part question. A, how do you think the Cowboys will do in 2020? And B, are the Cowboys the worst fan base in the NFL, in your opinion?
For the fan base, I think that they get so much. Every year is their year, and it's like no matter what, because it's Dallas, they're big. So no matter how crappy they are, everyone talks about them. Like this year, and their fans get real chatty up until like week 6, like when they're usually out of it. But I actually really like Mike McCarthy, though. I've always liked McCarthy. When he was here, he always talked about the history of the Packers. I've heard stories about him showing film of the 60s Packers and, all the history, like to the players, trying to teach them. So I like that he respects the history. And obviously I think, it was time for him to move. But with him in Dallas, like I hate the Cowboys so much, because from the 90s, like when I was a kid, the Cowboys they stopped the Packers so many times from going to the Super Bowl, and we finally got there, but it was someone else knocked them out. I think the Niners ended up knocking them out. But my hatred for him is like severe. Like they're like the number one team outside our division that I can't stand. That's what I was telling people. I'm like, Haha goes from the Bears, the team I hate the most, to like the team, like my second or third hated team. So it's tough.
It is tough indeed. Matt, last one.
But
go ahead.
I was gonna say, as far as like what they'll do this year, like I think that they could do something this year. I really don't see them. Like I've seen people say that they're gonna go to the Super Bowl with the new head coach. I know like LaFleur did it last year. He went to the NFC Championship game, but that's very hard in your first year, especially the Packers had Aaron Rodgers. The Packers had a new defense. The Cowboys seem like they have a lot of situations over there with Dak contract. They have a lot of drama. I think it'll be tough for them to, but you never know, though.
You do never know in the NFL, obviously.
Because they got talent. They got talent that they can put together.
They do, but I think that, as you mentioned, this Dak Prescott situation is such an interesting one that it might completely ruin them and might completely make them. who the heck knows? But
Yeah.
our Twitter question today, Matt, is about the NFL preseason. I just did about a 20-minute rant about how the preseason is good for people getting drunk because they take off on Friday, and that's about it. And maybe your practice squad. We put up a poll saying, how should the preseason be formatted going forward? Should it be 4 games, 2 games, 0 games? What's your thought on that?
I could see like 2 games because I do think it's important, like as far as like players, getting like some players would never get a chance if it wasn't for preseason. There's you've seen pack of players throughout the years that no one really knew what they are, but they had like a good preseason. They're like, oh, this is the year, and they go on the practice squad. The next year they have another good preseason. Next thing you know, they're on the roster. So I think like for some players it's important, but for fans, like for me it doesn't matter. Like if I go to a preseason game, I'm getting lit. Like I'm
That's
drinking.
what I said, right?
Yeah, because you don't see anyone anyway. I mean, just being in Lambeau is kind of like the thing, but like the stars ain't there, and it just doesn't mean anything. I mean, for coaches it does, and for the players it does.
Right.
But for a fan, you're just there. It's kind of like it's like a vacation game. There's no stress. It doesn't matter. You enjoy the surroundings, enjoy the Packer fans you're with, and just drink beer.
Exactly. I said in the segment before we brought you on, I'm visiting the Miller Lite tent 18 times if I'm going to a preseason game because I don't give a damn about what's going on the field, right? Rodgers isn't out there. Adams isn't out there. Both the Smiths probably won't be out there if they move to this 2-team format. And I said, I bet Daniel Jones doesn't even take a freaking snap in the preseason if it moves to 2 games because it's really not that important for your top, 20, 25, 30 guys.
No, it's not. It's a lot of it, I think, is the coaches maybe trying new plays, maybe trying like certain coaching style stuff, like how they call plays. I think that they get a little bit of practice on certain things. And obviously it's just the players who are trying to prove themselves. But I remember like 2 years ago, I went to a preseason game. We tailgated way hard. By halftime, I was so drunk. I went to go to the bathroom and I kind of started falling, and there was a family like next to us. So I just didn't come back. I stayed in the concession area because I didn't want to be that tipsy around, people and their family. They had kids and stuff. So I was like, I'm just going to stay out here. But that's what preseason is. Like, you just, for a fan, just have fun and drink.
Exactly, Matt. I'm glad you're so open because look, it's just the gosh darn truth. All right, Matt, last one for you before we got to let you go. I need to know Aaron Rodgers. Obviously there's a chip on his shoulder this year, but then bringing in Jordan Love in the first round, second year of the offense. This has to be a big year for Rodgers if he stays healthy, right?
Yeah, I think that Rodgers is going to have the biggest chip on his shoulder he's ever had.
I agree with you.
And I think a lot of that was blowing up about how he feels about Jordan Love. I don't think a lot of it, people want him. Every time anything happens, everyone says Rodgers is horrible. New coach. He got rid of McCarthy. Now the new coach, they're going to have problems. They didn't. I think he obviously has feelings about them drafting a quarterback. So I think that he'll prove like, hey, I'm not done yet. You're gonna have a tough decision. I think he even said that. So I think he's gonna be focused. Not that he's not always, but anytime you have a chip on your shoulder, you go way harder and you're more focused. It just seems like if you're trying to prove everyone wrong, you're gonna go hard.
MVP.
Yeah.
At least we hope. Right?
I think, dude, I could see him having just a huge year. And these young wide receivers, everyone talks about, he doesn't have no wide receivers. Like, we have a running game. And if they use their running game right and play action, like, you don't need to have 4 or 5. Like, you don't need to have Greg Jennings and James Jones, like all the Jordys, all those guys like back in the day. We have Adams, we got Lazard, we got guys. And with that running game, I think that they can really do some stuff.
Matt, we're going to have you back because I appreciate your stories, your comedy, and your insight, my friend. All right, you stay safe, and we'll talk again soon.
All right, appreciate it.
That's Matt Ramage, Green Bay Packers superfan and host of the Ramblin' Matt Ramage podcast. At Matt Ramage on Twitter is where you can find him. We're going to take a quick time out here on the Alex Strouf Show. On the other side, it's time to break it down, man. It's fight night up next. Joey Bonadonna joins me. This is the Alex Strouf Show.
New faces, new debates, every single week.
He's not great. Yeah. He had 10 good games right before you put the title great on him.
It's time for Fight Night with Alex Strouf.
Ring the bell, and here we go. It is time for another fantastic edition of Fight Night right here on the Alex Strouf Show. On Tuesday, I posed the following topic: which NBA 1-2 punch is the best heading into what will eventually be the playoffs here in early August? I went the direction of LA, where I picked Kawhi and Paul George and the Clippers, who are second currently in the Western Conference. But my broadcast colleague from the Green Bay Blizzard, Mr. Joey Bonadonna, decided to tell me you should probably go one up on the standings there in the Western Conference and go with, oh my goodness, look how good he looks.
Oh yeah, I put it on my story today. I dressed for success for this one, Alex.
Oh no, Joey. So you went with LeBron and Anthony Davis, who currently stand with the second best record in the NBA, best record in the Western Conference. Why'd you go that direction?
Well, in my opinion, well, first before we start, talking about Anthony Davis, do you remember where you were when Anthony Davis was traded to the Lakers?
I was in the Rush Center with you.
Yeah, I remember you were the first one to tell me, and I remember you said you did not buy the hype right away. You thought they gave up too much.
I did.
And here we are, and we're debating it now. So I said I think they're a shoe-in for the title, for the Western Conference title. I think they're going to be able to get more in the offseason. This was before we knew Kawhi had probably just won the NBA title 2 days earlier, and then the Clippers got Kawhi and Paul George a month later in that big day. I believe it was July 10th. I bought into it right away. And that type of basketball that Anthony Davis and LeBron James have, I mean, just look at the sizes. 6'9", 6'11", 250 pounds plus. That's my type of basketball. That's bully basketball. That's the kind of basketball I like. It kind of depends on the kind of basketball you're looking for. Then you look at the stats and the numbers. LeBron and Anthony Davis combined every common statistic: points per game, rebounds per game, assists per game, turnovers forced per game, and PER rating. They beat them out in every single category, and that's why I take them. I think that they, if it's a 2-on-2 scenario just between those two, I take LeBron and Anthony Davis over Kawhi and Paul George all day.
Yeah, I think those are all very good points, Joey, and you have Danny DeVito on your side, so yes, obviously you've got something going right there. But look, I mean, we've watched a couple of games between these two teams, right? The Clippers and the Lakers. They've both won a game or two in that series. But what we've seen, especially throughout, is that Kawhi Leonard can officially take over the game unlike anybody else in the NBA. We saw it last year against the Bucks in the Eastern Conference Finals. Kawhi Leonard ran that series. He ran the final series against the Warriors. Obviously, injuries had a role to play with that, but took Toronto, who wasn't expected to the title game, and ultimately won it. In the series before against Philadelphia, we saw what he's capable of. I know the argument of Paul George disappears in the playoffs is a thing, but have we ever seen a duo that Paul George has been in quite like this one? Obviously, we saw him with Russell Westbrook and Carmelo Anthony, and it just didn't really work out for Oklahoma City. But in the long run, this duo is working out. Although they've had to iron out some issues, obviously only 24 games over 500, they've still been able to put together and string together really good runs and really, really good basketball. The second to last game that was played was between the LA teams, which ultimately the Lakers won. But otherwise, It was all Clippers before that. And the Clippers, in the games we've seen this year, clearly seem stronger than the Lakers overall. But I think this duo has performed better in those games in particular. And when I assume, ultimately get this matchup in the Western Conference Final, this duo is going to do more than that duo just because that's how those teams run.
And with my research that I did yesterday, just looking at the stat lines, say I used Giannis and Chris Middleton as a kind of a control just to kind of see what we're going up against. If, say, for example, it's Kawhi and Chris Middleton against LeBron and Anthony Davis, which one are you going to take?
I'm going to take LeBron and AD.
Well, there's an interesting point there. Chris Middleton is, if not better, if not the same, he's better statistically.
Then Paul George, statistically,
George.
sure.
Statistically,
but
this year.
Defensively, Paul George is better than him. I don't give a
Yes,
crap about your statistics.
I will give that to you. He is better defensively. But you think about it, like, hands down, I think they're the same player size-wise.
No. I mean, sure, size-wise, but they don't play the same role whatsoever. I mean, they just don't. Paul George is shooting guard in the Clippers offense, whereas Chris Middleton is a small forward. So I don't look at that comparison as a fair one, in my opinion. I'm going to shut you down on that one.
Okay, I'll go to my backup here. Going back to just sheerly this, if we're talking, sorry, I'm choking now. I thought that was going to work.
Not with me, man. Sorry.
Oh, damn. All right. If we're looking, getting my bearings here. If we're looking at
get your feet.
Right. All right. So 2v2. If we're looking strictly 2v2, we're not looking at the rest of the squad around them. LeBron and AD 6'9" and 6'11" against Kawhi 6'7", 6'8". Kawhi 6'7", Paul George 6'8". LeBron and AD
probably win a game of 2-on-2, yes. But ultimately, I'm looking at 1-2 punches as a whole. I mean, you can still talk about the team around them if you want. I'm not going to do that. I don't need you to do that. We know there are other pieces. But looking at strictly what these two have together is, yeah, sure, you have size in Anthony Davis, and you have rim protection, and you have the best player in basketball still, in my opinion, in LeBron James. Sure, I'm good with that. But when I look at the dynamic that is being presented by the Clippers in that same arena in the Staples Center, it's strictly this. There is both defensive, where Kawhi and Paul George every year, it seems, are making cases for defensive player of the year. I mean, I can't name the last time at least not one or both of them were finalists for that award in the past, I don't know, decade, 8 years maybe. Both of them are always in that conversation. You can throw as many steals per game as down for them stats as you want at me. It's still Kawhi and Paul George. I mean, these guys have stayed healthy for the most part this year, and they're going to put on a show in the NBA playoffs once we get to that, I assume, inevitable series against the Lakers.
Well, didn't we see it earlier already this season? Kawhi and Paul George, they missed games with injury, and that does affect their totals. And then another thing you look at, the turnovers forced per game between the two of them. Anthony Davis and LeBron James combined total for 5.66 turnovers forced per game. Kawhi and Paul George just 4.22. So that's already almost a 1.5 difference.
Sure.
Turnovers forced per game. That's the type of thing that I look for. Another thing I looked at, just looking at the eye test, looking at the connection between the two. Obviously, Kawhi and Paul George, they go hand in hand together. Then you take LeBron and AD and you look at their highlights and you look at what they do on tape. It's one of the most dominant things I think I've ever seen in my time watching basketball. You talk about Kobe, Shaq, maybe LeBron and Dwayne Wade down in Miami, but this is, in my opinion, one of the most dominant duos I think I've ever seen.
I don't even know if I'd put them up there with KD and Steph quite yet. I think we're jumping the gun. Do I think it's possible? Absolutely, well, I do. But I don't know if I'd even put them in the same realm as I wouldn't put them in the same realm as Dwayne Wade and they're nowhere near Kobe, Shaq. That's just a silly statement.
Well, that's not. I meant like size-wise. You look at how they dominate the game. That's my type of basketball. The way they dominate the game, use their size. You look at what they're going to go up against. Every game I saw them go against the Rockets, it was just lob, 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 lob. Anthony Davis, LeBron James, they could completely take over a game just by their size. And not to even overlook their athleticism. They have the same effect on the game with their size and their athleticism. It's just, I don't know how else to put it.
No, and me and Kyle were talking before the show, right? You have the argument where you have two top 10 players. I've got, a top 3 probably player in Kawhi and maybe a top 15 in Paul George, at least this year. So it's definitely close, Joey. But you definitely held your own. Joey, I'm going to let you wrap up real quick as we're running out of time. Why ultimately AD and LeBron over Kawhi and Paul George? I'll give you 30 seconds.
I think you put them in a best of 7. I think I've probably used this argument way too much. You look at it, there's just no way that if you in this situation, we're talking a 1-2 punch. We're talking about a duo. The two of them together, they would dominate a series 2v2. And I know it's not 2v2, but we're simply just talking about the duo. And we're talking about how they would ultimately look at LeBron and how he's taken over those scenarios for the last 8 years, barring last year, of course. But he's been that player in the NBA for the last 8 years. Kawhi just for his 2 title runs.
And Kawhi, I think all we need to see is what we've seen the last few years for Kawhi. Obviously, his exit from San Antonio and ultimately landing in Toronto and now in LA. The guy is doing unprecedented things. But I mean, it's hard to win an argument here for either of us because this is a very good comparison. These are the top 2 1-2 punches undoubtedly in the NBA right now. Joey, that's all the time we have for Fight Night. Thanks so much for jumping on, man.
Appreciate it, Alex.
That's Joey Bonadonna here on Fight Night on the Alex Strouf Show. He made a pretty good case, but I'm still rolling with Kawhi and Paul George. He didn't change my mind too much. We're going to take a break. We got 4 p.m. headlines on the other side. This is the Alex Strouf Show presented by Cream City Central.
From the WWSP 90 FM studios in Stevens Point, Wisconsin, here's Alex Strouf.
Holy smokes, does time fly when you're having fun? Already right into the 4 o'clock hour here on the Alex Strouf Show, presented by Cream City Central. Kyle Hoffenbecker, our producer today, and he is here with the news, our 4 p.m. headlines. Kyle, what do you got?
So we were just talking about the NFL and their kind of, off-season summer program earlier in the show with the preseason. Obviously, our Twitter poll of the day, so make sure to go check that out and vote, and we will get to that at the end of the show. But the NFL's new CBA changes training camp rules to make reporting dates uniform for 28 out of the 32 teams. And the reason why it's 28 out of the 32 teams is the 4 teams, the Steelers, Cowboys, Texans, and Chiefs, all their offseason programs are different based on what times they play.
Right.
Steelers and Cowboys are the Hall of Fame game, which we don't know for sure is going to happen or not yet. And then the Houston Texans and Chiefs play. They open the season Thursday, September 10th. So otherwise, all 28 other teams, including the Packers, start their training camps on July 28th, which will be they have to be in their home city, which was a rule that was announced a couple weeks ago. So, for example, the Cowboys can't play or can't do their training camp in Oxnard, California. They have to do it in Dallas.
Gotcha.
So, and that doesn't mean anything for Green Bay, even though they technically do their training camp in Ashwaubenon.
It's still their facility, literally across the street.
Basically, their home facility is where they have to be. It was where they have to be at. So
now, I don't know if there was a ruling on this, Kyle. I haven't had the chance to look at this whole, obviously, CBA. But is public training camp going to be a thing for Green Bay? Are they going to allow fans to come, or do we not know this yet?
I haven't seen anything. My ultimate unfortunate guess is no.
I'm also assuming that, right?
Even if they do allow training camp, I would highly doubt they allow the bike riding.
We talked about that last week. I already know that's not going to happen, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's no way.
I'm leaning towards no on the public practice. Although I guess there is a way you could social distance. Maybe. I don't know. I just don't see it happen.
Right. One family to a row, and then you go every other row or something. I don't know.
And those are packed already.
Right. So. They always are. And people line up against the fence. I imagine they'll probably just go private outside of some media coverage. So it'll be interesting to see, man. It's good that the uniform date has been announced. Now we have an idea of when sports will actually be back. July 28th will be training camp for the Packers, and obviously July 31st for the NBA. We're looking good for hopefully baseball, maybe sometime around then, but who knows? Who knows, man? What do you got next?
So speaking of training camp, one league that had to stop in the middle of their season, the NHL and the NHL Players Association have agreed on an opening date for training camp to begin. Obviously, the NHL was one of the first teams to kind of to announce their restart plan with how the playoffs will be, and they're going to have the host or the hub cities is how they're going to do, one in the Eastern and one in the Western Conference. So they have now agreed to a training camp day, much like the NFL has, whereas the NFL's is July 28th. NHL's is supposed to start July 10th, and those are for the playoff-bound teams only.
Right.
So any of the teams that are, I believe it's the top 24, I think they're going with.
So we're looking at a month from yesterday for training camp for the NHL.
Yes. Yep.
That is exciting. I mean, I'm not a huge hockey guy. I don't think you are either. Obviously, no team here in Wisconsin. But I've always watched at least the Stanley Cup final, if not, the semifinals.
Yeah.
So I enjoy it, man. I enjoy playoff hockey. I'm not a huge hockey guy. I'm not going to sit here and act like I understand hockey very well, but it's exciting nonetheless.
Yeah. And I didn't make a banner for this one because I just remembered it. But Shams tweeted out earlier today that the NBA's original plan to restart the season, the regular season, was July 31st. They have now since pushed that date forward a whole 1 day. So now the NBA is looking at restarting their season on July 30th now instead of July 31st. So I didn't add that in, but that's just a little bit of extra news you get from
interesting
from me.
I
So
always like the extra news.
And even more sports news that has sports league restart news. This league actually started play back today. We're talking about the PGA Tour.
Right.
And they restarted today with the Charles Schwab Challenge in Fort Worth, Texas.
Yeah.
I know there had been some controversy with Texas, you can allow in an open environment, you can allow 25% capacity. I didn't watch any of I'm not a big golf guy, but there was some controversy about should they let fans in the 25% capacity. The governor of Texas was going to allow them. I didn't see. My dad had it on in the background and I wasn't really paying attention. But one thing I did see on Twitter was Aaron Rodgers, and we all know Aaron Rodgers is a huge golf guy, and he introduced one of the golfers today. This is something that the PGA Tour is doing, where some other celebrities were introducing some of the golfers, and we have Aaron Rodgers' video of him introducing one of the golfers. And I will have to give you a little bit of a warning. His beard is very well, you'll see.
Oh boy.
Now on the first tee, please welcome a man usually seen donning a mustache that allows his friends to make fun of him endlessly, his wife to give him the cold shoulder at nighttime, and his best friend and dog, Scotty, to refuse a walk. A one-time winner on the PGA Tour, avid amateur Scrabble player, occasional podcaster, and all-time Twitter troll. From Valencia, California, Max Homa.
He's actually pretty good at that.
Yeah.
We'll get to the beard in a second, but I need him to introduce the show.
Yeah. We need Aaron Rodgers to come on the show, period.
And then we'll have him record the intro.
Yeah. But that beard, I mean, that's like Ryan Fitzpatrick-esque beard level.
Did I see some gray in there? Can you pull it back up and just pause it? Is that possible? I don't know how that
I can see. I don't know. I believe you can talk over the audio.
Okay, then I'm going to talk over it. Yeah, play it again for me.
Now on the first tee,
so
please
look,
welcome
man.
A man usually seen donning
yeah,
a
there's some
mustache
gray in
that
there,
allows
Kyle.
his friends to make fun of him endlessly.
This is funny.
We'll get out of that.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah, that was. I mean, he's taking quarantine beard. I mean, it's not as good as Ryan Fitzpatrick's, and you haven't seen Ryan Fitzpatrick's. I highly recommend you go. But it's got like the curve. It's got the underneath, like, kind of curve.
Yeah.
I mean, he's rocking it. I think you should keep it.
I like it, man. I think it would get itchy with the face mask. Obviously, usually why he goes down to Ryan Dietrich says that beard almost looked fake. It's glorious. Yeah, it almost does look fake. But that all around great video from Rodgers. 10 out of 10 hashtag content, man. That was pretty solid.
So another player who actually made one of those videos. I don't have the video pulled up. Relates to this next story. USC ends dissociation with Reggie Bush, which has been. I know you want to get onto this. I know you're itching to talk about it. But for those who don't know, which I don't know, maybe you should know. I don't know. I'm not really sure. For 10 years, USC had kind of disassociated itself with Reggie Bush because of some controversy that happened when he was at school. He had his Heisman taken away, which I know you're going to talk about. So yeah, go at it.
So the situation here, Kyle, what is it? So they disassociated him for selling his merchandise while he was in college is what happened, right?
Yeah.
And they yanked his freaking Heisman for that. Number one, I'm very open about this. I think most people in this field, if NCAA athletes should absolutely be able to make money on their likeness, their signature, whatever have you, they absolutely should. Number one, they can't have jobs. I know they get free school, or a lot of them do, but they should still be able to go do autograph signings and whatever else. So the fact that Reggie Bush's Heisman was yanked 10 years ago number one is just ridiculous to me. I can't believe this was already in 2010. I thought this just happened. But they yanked his Heisman, and USC is not associating themselves. But then the first day they send out an immaculate tweet. Welcome back, Reggie Bush. We can't wait to see you in Southern California. I mean, it's all stupid, and USC knows it's stupid. The NCAA is stupid. Give the man his Heisman back. Reggie Bush posted one of the most phenomenal college seasons I've ever personally witnessed. I mean, that was right around the time back in 2005 when I got into college football. And Reggie Bush, it was just unfreaking real at USC. Matt Leinart was really good at USC. We had Vince Young at Texas at that time. That was peak college football, man. That was when it was the best. And we're going to act like Reggie Bush's Heisman season didn't exist? No, nobody's going to act like that. Nobody's going to sit here and tell you that Reggie Bush never won the Heisman Trophy, because that's just not true. Give him his – did he actually have to physically give them the trophy back?
I hope not. I
wonder if it still like sits on his coffee mantle and they just took the nameplate off, or if he literally had to give the Heisman back, and that's just the one. Instead of getting another one made, they just gave it to, whoever won it in 2010, for instance, Joe Burrow, here you go, or Cam Newton, Jameis Winston, whoever it was back then. The fact that his Heisman was ripped for him selling his merchandise, his autograph, what have you, is absolutely ridiculous. It's ridiculous. There's no other way to talk about it.
I'm going to take one step up here, and I just got done watching. During this quarantine, I've been binging a lot of the ESPN 30 for 30s.
Right.
And one of the ones I watched, which I'm surprised I brushed over this, I haven't seen it, was the one about the Youngstown boys with Maurice Clarett and Jim Tressel. And I've never understood why, so for example, with Ohio State and Jim Tressel, they took away all of his wins. And now there's some examples in some instances where I agree with doing this 100%, like the Joe Paterno and Jerry Sandusky. We're not going to go into that. That was just an awful situation. But to take away wins is just and to act like nothing ever happened and erase history is just dumb. You can't unsee. It's not gonna.
Right.
You're always gonna remember something happening. You're always gonna remember Reggie Bush's Heisman season. You're gonna remember, especially if you're an Ohio State fan, you're gonna remember what Jim Tressel did for the Ohio State program for over a decade. You're not gonna forget it. And I never understood the reasoning behind taking away, wins or taking away awards or national championships or whatever, because people aren't gonna forget that. People aren't dumb.
No, and I look at a similar situation, Kyle, like the Houston Astros. Maybe we can throw an asterisk next to it, but the MLB is not going to strip them of their title, because even though they openly cheated, and we know this, at least in some capacity, although I still am on the stance of how they cheated wasn't really rocket science, but that's beside the point.
How they didn't get caught.
Right. But you can throw an asterisk next to it all you want. And we talked about this on Tuesday with Jim Paschke. You can't throw an asterisk next to the 2020 season. Jim Paschke actually said you should throw a golden star next to a season like this. But in the Reggie Bush case, for the fact that he sold his autograph and merchandise, which quote unquote illegally, we can have that debate another day. Absolutely just a shame that they try to take that away, because nobody is going to sit here and act like it didn't happen. And nobody's going to sit here, even if the MLB did strip Houston of that title, nobody's going to sit here and act like Houston didn't win the title that year. We all know what happened. We all know how it played out. Reggie Bush won the Heisman that year, and you can erase it from the Wikipedia page. You can erase it from all NCAA Hall of Fames, affiliations, websites, what have you. Nobody's going to forget. It's just so unbelievably ignorant and stupid to me. So dumb. So dumb.
I see, as we're talking here, I'm kind of looking at the amount of people we're watching, and I can see it consistently going down, which can only tell me one thing, that our takes maybe aren't the best here. But
very cold.
I'm sorry. If I agree with you, Alex.
I appreciate that. Yeah, but apparently other people don't, but that's fine. Let's take a timeout on the other side. Brewers made a pick in the draft last night. Who is it? I'll tell you about him next. This is the Alex Strouf Show on Cream City Central. Back here on the Alex Strouf Show, presented by Cream City Central. The MLB Draft currently going on. We had the first round last night, and the Brewers with pick 20 did this.
With the 20th pick of the 2020 MLB Draft, the Milwaukee Brewers select Garrett Mitchell, an outfielder from UCLA.
So there you have it. Garrett Mitchell, outfielder of UCLA, ranked by MLB.com as the number 6 overall prospect, dropping all the way to 20 for the Brewers to scoop him up. As mentioned, obviously, by Rob Manfred there, out of UCLA, 21 years old. He's a left-handed batter, right-handed thrower, so a guy that can, use it all. But Garrett Mitchell, man, this is an exciting pick. Obviously, Lorenzo Cain and Christian Yelich and Ryan Braun aren't going to be around forever. And though he plays center field in college, you can move your outfield around, as we've seen, obviously, at the professional level. So looking at UCLA, a solid college program, and Garrett Mitchell has really wreaked havoc there the last few years. So overall, a solid pick for the Milwaukee Brewers in Garrett Mitchell. We'll see where he goes. Obviously, the potential of rookie ball probably in the dirt right now for the MLB. We can assume that rookie ball, because it's supposed to start, in 2 weeks would be the scheduled start. And that's just not going to happen, obviously. But look, overall in 2020, Garrett Mitchell had just a small amount of time to play. Play for UCLA started back in February and it halted. So it was February 14th, Valentine's Day, was their first game, and March 8th was their last one at USC. This year he went 15 games, started all 15 of them. He went 22 of 62 from the plate, averaging 355, 1 triple, 6 doubles, 9 RBIs, and like I mentioned, the 22 hits. Hit by pitch 3 times and only struck out 3 times. So not bad at the plate for Garrett Mitchell. From Orange, California, only a junior, but a big selection there in the 2020 MLB Draft for the Brewers. I'm not going to sit here and act like I know everything about Garrett Mitchell because I don't watch college baseball very often. So that's about all I know on that front. But you never know how these products turn out, because the MLB Draft is always so weird to me. I don't remember off the top of my head how many rounds it is, but I know it's like 35 rounds or something. And sometimes teams just like to use their 32nd round pick on a celebrity. Like, I know, didn't Johnny Manziel get drafted when he hadn't played baseball since middle school? And I know obviously Russell Wilson and Kyler Murray, I think those were real, because Kyler Murray was actually a terrific baseball player, and he was really leaning both ways. But the Tigers just kicked off the second round of the MLB Draft, selecting catcher Dylan Dingler of Ohio State. Dylan Dingler. That's a baseball name, man. Dingler, instead of hitting a dinger, I guess. That's how that goes. So Garrett Mitchell is a Brewer. Yeah, great. Like I said, the MLB Draft's a hard one to follow. It's not quite like the NBA or NFL drafts where you can follow along the first few rounds. Greg Williams chimes in. Very good contact hitter. Hopefully power develops, and a very good fielder in Mitchell, as Greg Williams 28 says in the chat on Periscope. Remember, you can chime in on the chat. Like I said, I haven't had the opportunity to watch any film on Garrett Mitchell, but that is the direction that the Brewers go in the 2020 MLB Draft. So we've got Asher Low coming up in a little bit to stay on the college, on the college front, but we will take another look at the Cream City Central Twitter poll while we have a few minutes to kill.
I came on just because I wanted to mention a couple things.
Yeah, go ahead. You probably know more than I do. So have at it.
I am wearing my Brewers stuff today. The thing with what I've heard with Garrett Mitchell, you said he was the 6th ranked prospect in the draft. He did drop down to 20. The guy has type 1 diabetes, which is a crazy thing to play with.
Yeah.
I don't know anyone super close to me who has type 1 diabetes. But it is something that it does hinder your play. So it'll be.
So is that the reason of dropping to 20?
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah,
Okay.
is his major reason for dropping. But the outfielder pick is interesting because, right now on the MLB roster, the Brewers have arguably the best outfield trio in MLB with Lorenzo Cain, Christian Yelich, and Ryan Braun.
Right.
Obviously, with the MLB draft, you're looking at guys who aren't going to be playing for 4 or 5 years at best. I mean, unless you get a really top guy, you get the first overall pick, maybe he's playing in 3 years. If you're Bryce Harper, you're just one of a kind, and you play almost instantly.
Freak show,
or if you're a fictional character on MLB The Show, you somehow manage to go from AA to MLB in like 2 months.
MLB The Show, not to get too off topic, but I've only played it like 3 times. What's the big? A lot of people play. What's the big hoorah about MLB?
I mean,
The
it's
Show?
super realistic. Like, I think the career mode on MLB The Show is the best out of the 4 major, Madden, 2K, NHL. I don't really play, so I can't really say. Maybe the NHL career mode is better. But I mean, the MLB career mode at Road to the Show is, I think, the best sports career mode available out of any of the sports games. Just my opinion.
Okay.
There's also a little bit of a weird kind of vibe to it because it is only available on PlayStation. You can't play it on Xbox.
Right.
So, although I do know that it will be coming to Xbox soon. I mean,
finally, that's what I have.
They're looking. Yeah, me too. They're looking at, I believe, next March when the next game comes out in next March. They're looking at it being on Xbox.
Didn't the PS5 drop today?
Yeah.
Now
we just got. Yeah, we're super off topic now. We do have.
That's okay. We
have. Yeah, I mean, we got sports to lack of sports to talk about.
Yeah. Go ahead. No, go on. I'm sorry.
But yeah. So going back to how the outfielding situation, the Brewers have a lot of a lot of decent outfielding prospects. Corey Ray is one that comes to mind.
Yeah.
Drafted a couple years ago, top 5 pick out of not top 5, but I mean he's a super high draft pick is what I'm trying to say. So
gotcha.
There you go.
Well, there's what we know. There's what we know on Garrett Mitchell. It's a whole lot. Maybe Asher can provide some perspective on Garrett Mitchell. I mean, he's in LA right now, so we've got him coming up here in a few minutes. Talk Badger recruiting. The Badgers landed a big recruit in TJ Bowlers today, so we'll go over everything that entails with Asher Low here in just a few minutes. Looking at the class of 2020, now 14 hard commits for the Badgers, and a lot of 4-stars popping up, including today's TJ Bowlers, who does play defensive end. Ranked 93, man. That's a pretty darn good rating as a 4-star. So really, really shaping out, looking well for both the 2020 and 2021 classes, which we'll get into with Asher Low here in a few minutes. But we are going to take a break before we do that, man, because I don't know what to say about Garrett Mitchell anymore, quite honestly. Sorry, Garrett. This is the Alex Strouf Show on Cream City Central. And we welcome you back inside the Alex Strouf Show here, presented by Cream City Central. And it is not time to go to the phone line. And instead, we're going to pull up a video stream of my good friend Asher Low, who's all the way out in LA, California. But he is the publisher of thebadgerswire.com, covers Wisconsin for USA Today Sports Network, and is the host of the Locked On Badgers podcast. My good friend Asher Low. Asher, how are you, my friend?
I'm great, man. It's been a big day of Wisconsin recruiting already, and I'm excited to talk about it with you.
Yeah, let's dive right into that. TJ Bowlers, class of 2021, defensive end, recruits to Wisconsin this morning. Tell me what you know.
So this is huge. This is really, really big. This is the highest rated player that Wisconsin has gotten on the defensive side of the football. And if you look at different sites, it varies. But with 24/7 Sports, they have him as a high 4-star guy. 24/7 Sports Composite actually has him at the highest ranking I've seen anywhere, which is that high 4-star label. And he is a 2021 defensive end that's going to come in and ball. He is big, but he's fast as well. For his size, he really moves well out of Clear Creek, Amana High School. And, you thought he was going Iowa. You thought he was going somewhere home state for a little bit. And then a couple months ago, things just switched. It really seemed like Wisconsin was all over him, had him locked in for a while here. And this shouldn't come as a surprise to anybody that he committed to the Badgers today. This was something that we kind of knew covering him, covering Wisconsin recruiting, that he was leaning Wisconsin for a while now.
Yeah, and you've been kind of reporting that all week. You've had some guests on the podcast also already committed to Wisconsin. Daryl Peterson was one, Deacon Hill another, and you kept saying the group chat. Could you explain that to some of the people unfamiliar? Yeah.
I love the group chat. All right, so here's the group chat. And I say the group chat because it's the only one you should care about if you're a Wisconsin recruiting fan or if you're a Wisconsin football fan. The group chat is the class of 2021 guys that are already committed and some future commits that obviously they wouldn't tell me because we don't want to break that for any kids that want to announce that themselves. But the 2021 commits plus some future commits have this group chat that they're always active in. They're always talking to each other. Deacon Paya Hill, who's a 2021 QB out of Santa Barbara, already committed to the Badgers very early in the process. Actually, Alex, committed to the Badgers and was offered by the Badgers before he made a varsity start in high school. That's how early Wisconsin was all over him.
Nice.
So they really got to him early. Actually, same story with Graham Mertz, by the way. He also didn't start a varsity game before Wisconsin offered him. But back to that group chat, Deacon told me they're already like a family. They all talk in that group chat, the 2021 class. And what they've done is used it as a recruiting tool as well. So they'll throw a guy's name in there that the coaches want them to target or a position, which right now it's wide receiver, which is one of the holes in that 2021 class. So, for example, they threw a guy, Skylar Bell, who's a 3-star wide receiver that Wisconsin has been targeting for a little bit. They threw his name in the group chat, gave his number out to the group chat, and then everyone in that 2021 class that's in the group chat just went after him, and they eventually got him on a Zoom call last week. So they're recruiting hard. They're talking to each other. They're becoming a family, and they're 2 years away from playing college football.
Right. And this is completely legal, right? There's no NCAA infraction being broken here, right?
None. Yeah, totally legal. And, any recruit can help recruit other guys. And that's something that this 2021 class, which is already a special group, even before Bowlers announced that he was committing, which was something we knew for a while. Like I said, TJ Bowlers had been in the group chat, by the way. I'd gotten confirmation that he was in the group chat about a month ago.
Yeah.
Deacon told me he'd been in the group chat for a while. So we all thought he was coming to Wisconsin. 24/7 Sports had him as a lock. But, this group of 2021 guys really likes to recruit other players. And that's something that has helped the class as a whole.
Yeah, currently ranked by 24/7 Sports as the 12th nationally ranked recruiting class in 2021, which is better than the 26th ranking they got for this upcoming year. So obviously the group chat is doing some good things overall, and obviously from the top down, recruiting-wise, very successful for 2021.
Yeah, this class could be one of the best in Wisconsin football history. I think the thing that could tip this class into that really, really elite tier is the one name I would give you is Nolan Ruchi. And if you're not familiar with Nolan Ruchi, he is a 5-star offensive lineman, the brother of Hayden Ruchi, who is currently a Wisconsin tight end. But he is a Pennsylvania native, and the Ruchi family being from Pennsylvania, Penn State has gone after him very, very hard. And right now it looks like he is between Penn State and Wisconsin. He hasn't listed it down to those two, but right now all the indications show that it's either the Nittany Lions or the Badgers, and he is a 5-star guy, so that'd be a huge get for the Badgers to take this class to the next level.
Now, Asher, a 5-star guy, his brother plays here, and it's OLU. That seems like a no-brainer to me, at least. But I guess we should recruit him. We shouldn't make his decision for him, should we?
No, we shouldn't, but it should seem like a no-brainer. Actually, today, Jesse Temple, who's the Wisconsin writer for The Athletic, he did a story on brothers who play together at Wisconsin, and Hayden Ruchi saw the story, retweeted it, and said, I mean, what's better than this? Like, you got to play with your brother, right? So Hayden's been recruiting him hard. We know that, who is a current tight end on the team, and his older brother. And other guys have also been going after Nolan Ruchi. So, but hey, Penn State's been recruiting him hard for a while, and he's an in-state guy for them. So it's definitely between those two teams.
I want to jump back a year now. I want to go to this year's recruiting class on the football side, the 2020 recruits. Quite a few 4-star guys on that list. Trey Wettig, an offensive tackle. Jalen Berger, a running back out of New Jersey, currently at Don Bosco Prep in Indiana. You've got to be pretty excited about this class as well, too. And they're like I said, they're just outside that 25 ranking at 26, according to 24/7.
Definitely. And in college football, obviously, a lot of these guys won't contribute next year. They'll redshirt or whatnot, or be behind really, really good players. One of the guys, though, that you already mentioned that will contribute, in my opinion, next year in a big way is Jalen Berger, another New Jersey running back. Wisconsin football loves their New Jersey running backs. We got a guy by the name. Have you heard of Jonathan Taylor, Alex?
Never heard of him, Asher. Never heard of him.
So he's pretty good. He's a running back out of New Jersey. He's nice. And then Jalen Berger's coming in as that next guy in the pipeline out of New Jersey. Jonathan Taylor, of course, now on the Indianapolis Colts. We'll see him in the NFL. But Jalen Berger's a guy, because there's an opening in that position, whether it be Nakia Watson, who was a freshman last year, got a lot of time behind JT, whether it be Jalen Berger, whether it be a guy like Isaac Arundo, who comes in and makes a splash in whatever camp will look like. I say in camp, but I'm not really sure what that'll look like yet. So the running back position is basically wide open right now, and Jalen Berger's in the conversation for sure.
That's Asher Low, publisher of the BadgersWire.com, covering Wisconsin for the USA Today Sports Network and the host of the Locked On Badgers podcast. You can find him on Twitter at alow_33. Asher, one last question on the football side, man. What just really overall, very general question. Obviously, a disappointing end to last season for the Badgers. What's the ceiling for this squad next year? Because there is still a lot of question marks throughout that team.
So I think the expectation, first of all, is a Big Ten West title. Again, that has to be the expectation. There's no team right now that, in my opinion, is even extremely close to Wisconsin on paper in the Big Ten West. And then we get to the other side of the conference, and it's a whole different story.
Right. Because
you have this team in Columbus, the Ohio State Buckeyes, that will be a powerhouse again next year, will be a powerhouse for years to come. That's the hump to get over in the Big Ten for Wisconsin. That's the hump to get over to get to that national championship playoff. They have to get over Ohio State. And in all honesty, Alex, I think it'd be really hard-pressed to put expectations on this team to say that they should get over that Ohio State hump this coming season, because Ohio State returns a loaded group, obviously led by Justin Fields, who will be a Heisman favorite. I think the ceiling is a New Year's Day bowl game. The ceiling you have to say is a playoff berth, but the realistic ceiling is a New Year's Day bowl game, an appearance in the Big Ten championship game, and a competitive fight in Indianapolis against Ohio State. What likely will be Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game.
Right. Yeah, we can assume that. I lied. I'm going to throw one more football question at you, because this is a name we've been hearing. You brought it up earlier. It's a name we've been hearing for years. We didn't see a ton of him last year. Graham Mertz. I need to know your true insight on this guy, because there's been buzz around the name Graham Mertz for the last, 3-4 years.
So the first thing I want to do is make it very, very clear that, in my opinion, and I think that all Badger fans should go in with this expectation, Jack Cohn's the starter, and Jack Cohn would have to do a lot wrong to lose that. This is not a 1A, 1B situation. Jack Cohn is the starter. Jack Cohn will be the starter unless the Badgers season goes horribly wrong and goes horribly wrong early. Jack Cohn will start every football game for Wisconsin next year. But that's not to say that Graham Mertz isn't a special talent. He is. I can't wait to see him on the field. And you have to remember that he's going to have 3 years to take the reins of this thing. Right. People are very worried about him transferring. And you hear the stats. I think it's in like the mid 40 percentile of guys that after their first year, if they don't play and they're a 4 or 5 star quarterback recruit, they transfer. Like a ton of quarterbacks that are highly rated will transfer. Don't quote me on the number, but I saw that stat somewhere recently. Graham Mertz is going to have 3 years where he has the keys to the car. It's not going to be this coming year. And he's going to learn a ton this year, right? I'm sure he learned a ton last year. He's special, Alex, and I can't wait to see him in a Badger starting spot. It's not going to be this coming year, though.
Yeah, you use the metaphor. He's going to have the keys to the car, and we assume, with all the hype and the buzz that surrounded Graham Mertz in this quarterback room for the last several years, even when he was in high school, we assume he will not drive it right into the ditch, right?
Right.
Good.
Yeah, he's going to be a stud.
Yeah, I sure hope so, as we do. Let's move over to the basketball side of things now. You talked to Ben Carlson this week, which is the highest-ranked recruit for this basketball squad. 6'9" guy out of St. Paul, Minnesota, 4-star recruit, as I mentioned. What was your conversation with him like?
It was a great conversation. He is a guy that I'm very, very excited to watch. He's a guy that's going to contribute next year right away in Madison. Basketball is very different than football in terms of a freshman coming in and contributing right away, being a starter right away. I don't think he'll start, but he's going to come in and be a massive force. He's versatile, Alex. He can do a lot of things really well. In fact, when I talked to him, he said that he'd been the tallest guy. I kind of made the comparison to Anthony Davis. I was like, because he told me he played point guard his whole life. And I'm like, did you just have that Anthony Davis growth spurt where you grew like 14 inches in a summer? Because that was the whole story with some of those guys that had the guard skills and got really, really tall and athletic. It's that they had these crazy growth spurts. But he told me no. Like, my dad's been telling me to play point guard my whole life, and I've been the tallest guy on my team my whole life, whether it be in 5th grade or in high school, but I still played point guard. So I'm coming into Wisconsin with the size, with the athleticism, but also with guard skills, with skills to play on the wing. So he's extremely versatile. I'm not even sure exactly what his true position is going to be next year, and I can't wait to see. Greg Gard has a really, really fun puzzle to put together next year in Madison.
Yeah, and Greg Gard usually does a nice job, and we saw what he was able to put together this year, what nobody expected to win the Big Ten, at least a share of the Big Ten. He gets criticized a lot, though, Asher, for not being able to recruit in-state. Johnny Davis, who won the Player of the Year, Gatorade Player of the Year in Wisconsin this past year, is committed and signed to Wisconsin. Like I mentioned, out of La Crosse, a 3-star guy. he's a big get, and I imagine he also won't contribute right away, but obviously a good get for Greg Gard and company.
Yeah, the recruiting thing in state, I want to first say, before I get into the Davis brothers, the recruiting thing in state, I think, is a very, very unfair picture to paint, because football recruiting in state and basketball recruiting in state, two totally different things.
Right.
Totally different. I wish, I should create a stat. I'm going to look that up, actually. How many guys from the top 100, ESPN top 100 in football and basketball stayed in state? Because I guarantee you more football guys stayed in state than basketball guys. Way more. I guarantee you it's significantly more. And yeah, it's way easier to recruit in state for football for some reason. I'm not exactly sure the reasons behind that, but it's just a fact. So, Duke's going to come in and create a Wisconsin pipeline. If a North Carolina football school tried to do that in Wisconsin, it wouldn't work. That's just a fact. But Duke has that pedigree, and guys will go anywhere in basketball to kind of play. So yeah, it's not exactly fair to say, oh, Greg Gard didn't get the top five player that's in state, because that guy is going to go to Duke or he's going to go to North Carolina. That's just kind of the nature of basketball recruiting. It's a very different thing. But what he did get is a fantastic 2020 class and a 2021 class that is already looking like one of the best in the country. And this 2021 group, it's going to be led by Ben Carlson and Johnny Davis, no doubt about it. The Davis brothers from La Crosse Central High School, same place that Kobe King went, who played at Wisconsin last year and then had that mid-year transfer situation. He now will be at Nebraska next year. But Johnny Davis is smooth, man. Like, he is silky smooth. When I watch his tape, he's fluid. He has a beautiful pull-up jumper, great handle, and he has NBA length at his position, NBA size and athleticism at his position. I could see him being the most likely guy in this 2020 class to play at the next level.
Wow. That's high praise from you, Mr. Lowe.
I'm a big fan.
I like to hear that. You call them silky smooth. You got to be a big fan of somebody to call them silky smooth, man. That's the only way that applies. So overall, again, I'm going to ask you the same question I asked on the football side, because we saw what they did this year. Nobody expected the Badgers to win the Big Ten. Not you, not me, nobody, I don't think. And they went and did that. So that means next year creates an even bigger stage for the Badgers. What do you think the ceiling is for them? Another Big Ten title?
Yeah, I first want to say that I'm not going to sit here on your show and tell people that I knew that this was coming, this Big Ten run. I had no idea. This was out of nowhere. It was truly out of nowhere. And, I saw some signs in January that Ohio State win on the road, but I still did not think they could put together this level of consistency. And all of a sudden, it seemed like everybody turned into the best version of themselves.
Right.
That's the best way I could put it. And you know what, Alex? What's that? Five that started at Indiana and won the Big Ten championship, guess what? They're all coming back.
Oh, yeah, baby.
This team is national championship ceiling.
Holy smokes.
I 100% believe that. This is the only 5 senior starting lineup in the nation, right? The only 5 senior starting lineup in the nation. And those 5 seniors just won a Big Ten championship in what is the best conference in college basketball. This is national championship ceiling. I'm not saying that's the expectation, but that's the ceiling.
So is this reminiscent, maybe not the names, but is this reminiscent of the 2014, 2015 teams where that should be the expectation going in as a Big Ten title and then a run to the Final Four?
I think in a way, yes, in terms of the expectations and the ceiling, but the makeup of the team is very different. This is not a star-heavy team. This is not Kaminsky and Decker leading the way and some really good role players around them. This is kind of everybody's a role player, and everybody does their role really well, and that worries me a little bit because, who do you go to for a last shot? Who do you go to at the end of the game? And that was a problem all year long. Even when they were winning, there were end-of-game situations where it was, frankly, a disaster. And so that's a big question to me. You don't have that star player, that Wooden Award kind of guy on this team. So the makeup is different, but the ceiling, to me is definitely the same, and the expectation should be the same.
Wow. High praise from Asher Low on Badgers basketball for next year, which I'm all for. And I totally agree with you. Now I want to switch gears here real quickly. If you don't mind, Asher, you mentioned to me, which I think I already knew this, but you re-mentioned it to me. Clippers fan. We just did a debate at the end of last hour. Who's the best 1-2 punch? I went with Kawhi and Paul George. My opponent went LeBron and AD. Do you agree with me, or are you going to go somewhere else?
I agree with LeBron and AD right now, and I have to say that, and that's coming from a Clipper fan, and I only say that because of Paul George's inconsistencies at the beginning of the year, injuries that kept him out, and whatnot. I think when healthy, it very well might be Kawhi and Paul George. We just haven't seen enough of them on the same floor together to know. The Clippers have just been a complete mess in terms of who's in and who's out of the starting lineup. It's literally like just a rotating like wheel. You never know on a random, December night who's going to play for this team. All early regular season, it was just, I don't know who's going to start tonight. Like it was weird. There were times when Derek Walton, would start. It didn't make any sense. So I can't go Kawhi and Paul George yet.
Okay.
But down the road, I could do it.
They have the best shot in the Western Conference to make the finals, though, right? At least I think that.
Yeah, that I 100% agree with, and I actually think this whole pause in the NBA season helps them and helps them more than the Lakers, and that's just because they're finally like really healthy now, and they're going to come into Orlando healthy, and that was the big question. Paul George wasn't healthy, Patrick Beverley wasn't healthy, and man, let me tell you, there might not be a more important player for the Clippers than Patrick Beverley. Like when he is on and off the floor, I kid you not, there were games when Kawhi wouldn't play, and there were games when Patrick Beverley wouldn't play, and there were some games where Pat Bev wouldn't play, and I'm like, this is a bigger loss than Kawhi tonight. Like we needed Pat Bev tonight. We needed that energy tonight badly. And so the fact that they're healthy coming in and they have the deepest roster in the NBA, 100%. I think the bench, there's no question that is the best bench in the NBA. And LeBron and AD, at the end of the day, LeBron James is 35 years old. Can he do it and they're going to be playing a lot in Orlando. It's going to be very intense. So I don't know. I mean, I'm not going to bet against LeBron James. He's the best player, in my opinion, of our generation by far. It's not even close. I'm the biggest LeBron fan and supporter, but he's still 35. We haven't seen that yet at this age. And so, especially in this circumstance, it's all weird, weird circumstances and whatnot. But to me, the Clippers are the favorite, not only in the West, but to win the ship because of the depth and because they're finally healthy.
Always great answers from you, Asher. I'm going to let you do it because you'll do it better than me. Plug what you got going on because you're doing a lot of great stuff. So let us know.
Yeah, man. Thank you. So we got a Locked On Badgers podcast going on. I'm putting out episodes Monday, Wednesday, Friday is when I'm trying to get them out. Definitely through a week. It might be Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, just given when guys can do interviews because we're doing a lot of Wisconsin recruiting interviews. We have, I'll break this on the show right now, who we have on Monday. We got Daryl Peterson on Monday.
Oh, nice.
Who is a 2021 Wisconsin commit. And I think we're going to have a major guest tomorrow who we talked about today on the podcast. I just can't confirm it yet because I haven't confirmed it with him, but we've talked about it, and I think it's going to happen for tomorrow's episode. So stay tuned for that. And then, we're writing a Badgers Wire for USA Today covering all things Wisconsin football and basketball. That's badgerswire.com. So definitely check that out and follow me on Twitter at AOW_33. And thank you for having me, my man.
Always, man. And we'll do it again soon because, like I said, you got some great insight. So that's Asher Low, Badgers Wire and Locked On Badgers podcast. We're going to take a time out here on the Alex Strouf Show, and we'll wrap up the week next. This is the Alex Strouf Show on Cream City Central. We welcome you back inside the Alex Strouf Show here on Cream City Central, and the Milwaukee Brewers are on the clock.
Right as you're saying this, they're making their selection.
All right, have at it, man.
They pick Freddie Zamora, shortstop from Miami. With the 53rd pick in the MLB Draft, the Brewers select Freddie Zamora, shortstop from the University of Miami. That's in Florida.
See, I'll be honest. I know just as much about Freddie as I do Garrett Mitchell. So I can't give you any insight, but there you go. Shortstop in round 2 for the Brewers. They're going position players to this early in the draft for a team that seems to need some pitching. Interesting nonetheless.
It certainly is. And, I mean, they've had some – they've had guys like Orlando Arcia come up at shortstop. They traded for, I can't think of the guy's name right now, and I feel really bad. They traded for him in the offseason. A guy who can potentially play shortstop. But yeah, I mean, infield has been, I talked about it earlier. Outfield was, I think, the best position group that the Brewers have by far. Yeah. I don't think there's any debate to it. But I mean, the middle infield is, I don't know how great this guy is. I obviously haven't paid much attention to the MLB Draft, but the middle infield, pairing a guy like Zamora with Keston Hira, obviously this is looking very far down the line, but it is interesting for a team that struggles with pitching to not go pitcher with either of their first 2 picks in the draft. So
yeah, it is interesting. But whatever, man. Like I said earlier, the MLB Draft is just so weird in comparison to the other ones because these guys, if they ever do, likely will not make an impact for 2, 3, 4, 5 years. I mean, you really never know. So we will see, man. We will see. But Freddie Zamora, shortstop out of Miami. As we wrap up here on the Alex Strouf Show, it's been a fun week. Jim Paschke and Scott Vinci on Tuesday, Asher Low and Matt Ramage today, as well as Joey for Fight Night. It's been a fun week, Kyle.
An interesting week. I mean, obviously I wasn't here for the first show on Tuesday. But I mean, I'm watching and supporting on Tuesday and back on the sticks on Thursday. So there you go.
On the sticks. Next week, man, we are still patiently awaiting the return of sports, but we will continue to preview and try to bring on some compelling guests and fun arguments and fun segments as we do here. So next week is going to be the same time, same place, Tuesday, Thursday, 3 to 5 on Facebook and Twitter as it stands right now. We might shift over to YouTube at some point. But who knows? That's all up in the air. But for the time being,
I do want to bring one more thing up. Our Twitter poll of the day.
Oh yes, I was blanked on it. What are we looking at, Kyle?
With 4 minutes to go, which is going to be the end of the show, we're going to call it now because there's obviously a clear winner in this poll. With 77% of the vote on the Alex Strouf Show Twitter poll today, how many games should the NFL preseason be? Not only this season, but moving forward into the future. 77% of our voters say only 2 preseason games, which is down from the current 4.
Right.
4 games has 8% of the vote, which is dead last. In the middle with your vote, Alex. 0 games for the preseason at 15%. And I'm gonna call it. I mean, there's 4 minutes left. I don't think it's
So 2. So Kyle,
I voted for 2.
So. That's probably the most realistic scenario, right? I don't think you need to completely eliminate it. I just don't think it'd be the end of the world if you did. I think you'd still get a very similar product on the field week 1 as you would if there was no preseason. Because again, a lot of the guys that contribute in preseason don't contribute much, if at all, in the regular season.
And this isn't an argument to be made. This is only for a city like Green Bay. Green Bay thrives on these preseason games for their economy. Yeah. So, I mean, taking away 1 isn't necessarily a big deal. Taking 2 away, I mean, you're getting close. But I mean, this doesn't affect say the Bears or the Lions or really any other of the 31 franchises who play in big cities. But I mean, the Green Bay economy is huge, and I know we're kind of going we're in a cycle. We talked at the beginning about the stock market. Now I'm talking about the Green Bay economy.
You are a finance major, aren't you?
There you go. But
it's full circle, man. Full circle today.
So I think 2 preseason games is a very good, medium, kind of level playing, not level playing field, but a very even.
Yeah, and I think you can answer the questions you need to and 2. I think that's just the easiest route to go for the NFL. I just think 4 is silly, and I know they're already talking about doing 2 next year in that new CBA where they're moving to an 18-game regular season. It'll be interesting, man, or 17-game regular season, 18-week. But we will see, man. We will see. More to talk about next week on preseason and the NFL CBA and the NBA coming back. Some MLB talk if they ever reach a damn deal, which who knows? Who knows if we even have baseball in 2020? But hopefully we'll have a deal in place by Tuesday. And if we don't, we'll just tell them they're stupid again because that's what we've been doing for the last 2 weeks. That's Kyle Hoffenbecker. I'm Alex Strouf. Thanks again to everybody that jumped on today. Matt Ramage and Asher Low, as well as Joey Bonadonna for Fight Night. Fun week. We'll do it again next week. We'll see you on Tuesday. Peace.